Ladies and gentlemen, there has been a war raging between me and editor-in-chief at Blizzard Thumbs, Austin Yorsky, about which persona is superior. Of course, you know that I am a huge fan of Persona 4, my favorite game of all time, and Austin insists that 3 is better. Well, today, I'm here with Austin, and we are gonna settle this. Isn't that right, Austin?
You're going down, Taylor.
I don't know, man. I don't know. The odds are against you. I think more people like Persona 4.
You know what? A lot of people like Jersey Shore. That doesn't mean it has any artistic merit.
Touche. But hey, it's not called Persona 3 Arena. It's called Persona 4 Arena. I rest my case. Done.
To be clear, I actually do really like Persona 4, but just like Final Fantasy 6 versus Final Fantasy 7, there's it's the two biggest entries in a long-running franchise. You're gonna have nitpicks between them, and you're gonna have your favorite. Do you want to, before we get right into it, maybe have a little bit where we talk about our histories with the series? Because I think you represent kind of the new guard of Megami Tensei fans, while I'm kind of as old school as it gets in the English language.
Yeah, that sounds good. I really didn't even discover the series as it was coming out. I was kind of bored one day and just going through old reviews on game trailers, and I was like, let's look up PS2 RPGs. And then I came across this game. I think it might have been Persona 3 because the PSP version came out. And I was watching it. I'm like, oh, this is really cool, because I was really into the Harvest Moon games, which sort of have that life sim where you can, date the girls, and that affects how the game ends up. And that there was that side of the game in Persona, and then there was also the RPG aspect, which, I mean, I'm a big JRPG fan, so it was sort of like two of my favorite mechanics or things in games put into one. And I'm like, I don't know how this game plays. I don't know how it's going to feel, but I feel like I'm really going to like it. And so one day I went to a GameStop, and they happened to have a used copy of Persona 4, and I popped it in, and I played 8 hours straight. I was just totally hooked. And then I went right from 4, and I played 3. And I played FES. I didn't play the PSP version. I still haven't. And then just maybe a month or two ago, I beat Persona 4 Golden on Vita. And I haven't played the old ones. I haven't played the original Persona 1 and 2. I haven't played any of the PS2, Nocturne or Strange Journey or Devil Summoner Overclocked. I never played any of those. So my history with the series is pretty much just Persona 4 and Persona 3. So how about you? You have apparently a much longer running history with the series than I do.
Yeah, see, you're kind of what a lot of Mega 10 fans would look down on. You're kind of like the people who just got on board with the easy, happy power of friendship games. As far back as the series has been localized, Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne, that's where I got on board because Dante was in it, and I was a big Devil May Cry fan. So that's how I got on board. But it really changed how I thought about how RPGs could be, because it's just so dark and just so cynical, and it was something I had never seen before, and it really spoke to me. Maybe I was going through a goth phase, I don't know, but I played so many of these games since Devil Survivor, Devil Summoner, Digital Devil Saga. I'm trying to think, Strange Journey. There's just almost everything that's been released in English I've played. So that's where I'm coming from. And to me, and as we'll get into, Persona 4 is so far removed from the core of the franchise that it's kind of funny. If to compare them, we'll get there, but I think we should let you explain why, as you've said to me before, Persona 4 is your favorite game of all time now.
I think as the time has gone on, there are other games that have a lot of nostalgic value for me. It's great to go back and play Final Fantasy 7 and Final Fantasy Tactics, which are still, I would say, top 5 games of all time. But the more after replaying Persona 4 Golden on Vita, it just sort of reaffirmed, I'm like, this game is amazing, and it has pretty much everything I want in a game. And so why do I like it? I feel like it's when I play games, JRPGs are my favorite genre, and the reason why I like them is I want to get invested in a world. I want to be able to explore and kind of just really delve deep into this world with great characters. And I feel like in Persona 4, first and foremost, the characters feel like real people, they're people I could go hang out with, which sounds weird and almost like, Taylor, you should probably get out more. But I think anybody that's played the game knows what I mean. Yosuke feels like a real guy. He's sort of like this pseudo perv who is kind of goofy, but he's got a heart of gold. Like you could see yourself, or you could see friends in those guys, and I feel like it also has deeper meanings in the way you play through the game. Through the beginning of the game, as you have new characters join your investigation team, they have to face their demons both literally and metaphorically. They have to face their inner self and like accept that this is who I am. And I don't think there's a lot of games that really delve into subject matter like that. And Persona does it in like a really cool way. It's like perfect execution. And not only do they do that, but then once, the RPG like dungeon crawling, random battle thing is removed, then you have this sort of life sim where you're a high school kid and you're walking around and you're spending time with your friends. And it's not only just like, anybody that's played Harvest Moon, you have events that are very shallow and relatively meaningless in the long run of the game. But in Persona 4, you're like, hey, Yosuke, let's go hang out. And there's like a unique event, and then he gets stronger in battle. So not only is it fun to do, but it also has an impact when you go into the TV at night and do the dungeon crawling because he's stronger now. And also has sort of a Pokemon feel to it where you can get different monsters and mix them and match them and do this and do that. So it just is such an addicting gameplay because it's like if you're done with the dungeon crawling, then you can go and do just fun life sim stuff. And it's kind of like how Catherine is. It's like you have the puzzle stuff at night, and then during the day, or I guess late at night, you have the life sim part of it. So I guess it just really has a good balance of everything that I want, like a really cool world and an interesting story with good characters, and the fighting mechanics are fun. And gosh, and that game is long. You can play that game for 50, 60, 70 hours, so you get your value out of it too, which is great. So I don't know if I'm rambling here, but that's about the gist of why I really dig that game.
Yeah, I mean, Persona 4 is a very good game, and all of those elements are things from the series. Example, the Pokemon quote-unquote aspect of it dates back to pre-Pokemon, pre-Dragon Quest V. I mean, this is really the series that started that, and it has influenced really the entire genre of JRPGs to this point. Persona 4 is a very good refinement of that, but where I feel it falls kind of short of the precedent set by Persona 3, let's start actually with my biggest sticking point. I say this all the time, Teddy. Teddy is a comic relief character in Persona 4 who doesn't fit. This is a game about a serial killer. This is a game about the world ending, and you have this guy in a bear mascot costume running around making puns. He doesn't fit the tone. He's not funny. His original voice actor is much more grating than the Golden release. But I guess if we're gonna go with the updated versions of both these games for comparison's sake, I guess. So Sam Riegel does a better job in Golden. But how can you defend Teddy as part of this, like, life sim / dungeon crawler when he doesn't fit?
I guess he sort of is a juxtaposition character. I think like we were kind of talking about earlier before we started this, that the Persona is a much more happy game than the rest of them. And I feel like when you go into the TV world, which is really where all this crazy stuff is going on, he's sort of like supposed to be the light in the darkness. That's kind of how I see it, because at the very end of the game, if you get the good ending or the true ending, he's like, oh, so this is what my world was like, before it went all crazy. And I think he's sort of a vehicle for the other characters, because as you play through the game, you can't willingly level up his social link. It just happens as the game goes along. And I think that's just sort of how Teddy is. It's like, oh, he's there to kind of make Yosuke a little bit softer and, like, I don't know, maybe ease Yukiko into talking to guys where she... Do you mean sexually harassing the female characters? Well, it's like, you could almost say Teddy is like borderline gay, sort of, like, especially with when he actually gets clothes and stuff. So like the girls, they're like offended by him or whatever, but at the same time, it's sort of like, oh, Teddy, you're so cute, ha 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 ha. Like, oh, he's just our gay best friend or whatever. I think we should take just a moment here, since you said it, to touch on the, I don't know if you want to call them like LGBTQ elements of these games, because this is actually a running theme. If you've played Persona 2, there is the homosexual relationship, or ambiguously, between Tatsuya and Jun, and that's kind of a thing that the series is known for. I feel my two favorite characters from Persona 4 are Naoto and Kanji, who are bisexual and
cross-dressing, respectively. But the game doesn't make it doesn't. I think it misses the opportunity to have just a gay and transgender character. It kind of it sets up these things and then just goes, no, forget about all that. They turned out that they're not different. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, I wonder if the English translation fixed that. I have no frame of reference for that. It could be that that's just how it is. But yeah, I see where you're going, because especially when you go to Kanji's dungeon where he's in the sauna, it's like, and he's doing like the lisp, like very clearly, like, my God, he's obviously struggling with being gay or whatever, or just a gender identity because he loves cute stuff. And it would have been kind of interesting, but I think it's interesting that you mentioned Naoto and Kanji, but because they kind of complement each other in a way, because they're sort of like, oh, Kanji kind of likes Naoto, and Naoto kind of is into Kanji, which is weird because they're both like homosexual, so it kind of works out in some weird way. I don't know.
The game seems to ship them a little bit. Like Kanji does obviously have a thing for Naoto, and Naoto doesn't. I'd have to look through the dialogue. I don't know if she actually reciprocates, but there seems to be something between them. But my problem with that is that it kind of puts Kanji's whole sexual thing to the wayside, because, it turns out he's just not gay. Like, I don't know. Don't you think it's a missed opportunity to have more unique characters?
I do. I don't know how they would have played that, but because the whole time Kanji thinks that Naoto's a guy, and then he finds out it's not a guy, so he's sort of. I think it's. I don't know if that's. I could see where you're going with it, where it's like that is maybe a missed opportunity. I think they really should have went all the way with Naoto, but maybe not so much with Kanji, because Kanji isn't necessarily struggling with his sexual identity as he is with I like cutesy things, that therefore I'm gay. But
it's a masculinity issue for Kanji.
Yeah.
Certainly. But I feel like they could have gone a little farther with that.
Yeah,
because they both have dialogue. Kanji says, "Oh, I realize now that I wasn't afraid of girls. I was just afraid of everyone rejecting me. Now I'm into girls." And Naoto says, "I realized I didn't want to be a man. I just wanted people to respect me. Now I'm okay being a girl." They completely reject the other interpretations of their characterization. I mean, maybe if they had left it more ambiguous, I'd be okay with it. To me, it just feels like they took the easy way out, the writing-wise. Maybe it's the translation.
It could be. I think I'm there with you on Naoto, but maybe not so much on Kanji. I think Naoto, they should have just left her alone and just kind of, because her thing is like, I wish I was born. I think even when you go to her dungeon, it's like, why was I born a woman? I should have been born a man, kind of stuff. And then like, oh, okay, now I don't feel like that. Those are some pretty strong feelings to just switch off. But and especially late in the game, because she's like the last character you get. So I could be there with you on Naoto, maybe not so much on Kanji though.
So if we hit the P4 characters, I think I need to at least preemptively address some P3 characters. I'll admit Ken is kind of a weak character. He has some interesting things, but then he kind of just falls by the wayside after a certain point. Junbei can be a little annoying. But how can you not love Koromaru?
The dog. I like I was prefacing this before. I don't remember much about him. I remember he sits in the hallway and you walk him every once in a while, but I don't remember how he impacts the game necessarily. I forget.
Well, I mean, his backstory is that like he had a former owner who died, and he waits at the shrine for him. It's really sweet, and then he's just a good friend. I think that actually changed. You played the FES edition. I think in the original, Koromaru is actually the one who saves you at the midpoint when you get crucified. But I think they changed that to Mitsuru's dad saving you. But that's not the point. The point is Koromaru is fucking awesome and way better a comic relief animal character than Teddy.
Yeah, I guess I could give you that.
Okay.
I don't know if I could really defend Teddy. I mean, he's funny to laugh at every once in a while, but there could have been a better way. I don't know. He's so iconic now. Like when you look at him, he was like the host for Persona 4, the Persona 4 Arena tournament, you know? So I don't know.
He is Atlus's Pikachu at this point.
Yep. That's a good way to put it.
Jack Frost obviously is the mascot, but as far as pimping him out, I think Teddy is the new face of that franchise at least. Some other characters we need to touch on. Rise. First of all, what are the chances that this small town just happens to have a world-famous detective show up, a pop idol, and this, the main character who's just so full of magical potential that everyone loves him? Like, the levels of coincidence in Persona 4 are outstanding, but I think Rise is the worst. Like that's like fan fiction shit. It's like, oh, Hannah Montana goes to my school.
I agree. You know, it's funny that you say that. When I played through the game for the first time, it reminded me a lot of Legend of Dragoon, where it's like, oh, you can control dragoons too. Oh, you can too. We all happen to be friends. How convenient. I think Persona's a little bit more subtle with it, just a little bit. But at the same time, I almost think you're right that it is fan service. It's like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if you had like a pop idol as a character in a game? I mean, it is a video game after all. It's not like something else. So I kind of just went with it. I'm like, that's kind of cool. There's a lot of potential story things you can do with it. I mean, like, it's almost fulfilling a fantasy in a way, because it's like, how many people have wanted to meet a famous person? Now it's like, oh, I'm fighting with this pop star chick thing, and I can date her, and I don't know.
I mean, there's something to be said for giving the audience a little escapism, but once again, this is a series in which you routinely enslave and or extinct humanity. So I'm a little put off by the pop idol thing. And it makes it even worse is in the Persona 4 Golden, there's an additional scene where you guys learn to play instruments in a weekend and then put on a concert.
I thought that was a little excessive.
It's goofy, Taylor. It's goofy.
It's goofy fun, though. It totally fits the vibe of the game.
Does it?
Here's the thing. I would agree with you that Persona 4 is the least like any other SMT game ever. And Persona 4 Golden just kind of jumps off the cliff with it, I think.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, at a certain point, you kind of just got to get over it. Like, I'm not trying to be like a super, elitist traditionalist with the series. I don't mind them going into other territory. I just feel like when you're still telling a story about the, A, a serial killer, and B, the potential destruction of the universe, and then you learn instruments in a weekend and put on a concert. It's silly, and it undermines some of the drama, I feel.
It could. I'm one of those people when I play games, I kind of, unless it's like really in my face, like, okay, that came out of left field and it is 100% unnecessary, I kind of just go with the flow. I'm like, Rise could sing? Sure, we could all play instruments. I was in the music club. Why not? That's just kind of how I thought about it. But I don't know. Like I said, I didn't play the other games, so it probably seems like blasphemy to you.
It's not as bad as like Final Fantasy X-2 is, but it's
where the whole game is based around that, and you change clothes, and it gives you different abilities, and
Well, that's the thing though. X-2 is actually mechanically a pretty good game, just as Persona 4 is on paper the best Mega 10. Like just mechanically, the numbers, the flow, just the overall spreadsheet stats part of the game, just on paper, Persona 4 Golden is the most refined as the series has ever been. Mm-hmm. I will give you that. But here's another thing, my next point. Persona 3 Portable, the definitive edition of 3, has a campaign where you can play as a female main character. That may not seem like a big deal, but A, it effectively doubles the amount of content in the game, which, I mean, right there, it should be just the better one. It has twice the content. But 2, it completely changes the way the social links evolve, and not in a condescending way. It's not like, oh, you're a woman, so now people are going to talk down to you or you're going to be less capable. It just shows the way that people relate and connect to one another, which is a central theme of the series. And I feel when you're doing the Persona sub-series, which is about finding yourself, being true to yourself, not having the option to play as a woman alienates half of the user base. It's almost not acceptable to have only a male character option in a game about being yourself, especially when it explicitly makes the main character your stand-in with the Velvet Room framing device. It's like, you are this person full of potential. You're the fool arcana. You are going to make these connections. It's all about you. And so if you happen to be a woman playing the game, too bad, I guess. Maybe when they were making the game, they didn't feel enough females would be interested. But then again, like you said, when they redid 3, they had a female. Why couldn't they have done that in 4? Which is true. It would have been kind of cool. It would have been interesting if Marie was the main character and then they switched it. But see, I haven't played the portable version. So how does the social link change? Can you like date Junpei or something, or how does it work? Well, use Junpei as an example. He's actually one of the people you can't date because he has the canonical love interest with
yeah, that's right. Okay.
With the other character. But you can date Akihiko, which is what I did, obviously, because Akihiko is hot as fuck. So let's just be honest here. I hit that
man.
shit. But also, Shinjiro, I believe I'm pronouncing that name correctly, Akihiko's friend, who, spoilers, dies in Persona 3. If you get a full level 10 social link with him before that event, you give him like a locket, and it stops the bullet. And although he is hospitalized for the rest of the game, he survives. So it is a big difference playing as a woman, and I feel just as valid and unique of an experience that it's essentially two separate games.
No, I agree. It would have been cool to see how it would have played out differently. Maybe it was a resource thing, because essentially, like you said, you have to basically make the game twice because you have to change how certain events play out and that sort of thing. Maybe it's not as complicated as we're making out to be. I don't know. But
I mean, it's certainly a lot of work, but I'm saying the work they put in Persona 3 Portable makes it a superior product. It's you get out of something what you put into it, and I feel like in that case, that is the definitive Persona experience.
Yeah, I suppose. I don't know. I'm trying to think of how it plays out in the story, because in 3 you're like, oh, we're joining this club to climb a tower, and this one, and then in 4 it's like, oh, we're doing a. Because I guess maybe I'm being a little sexist here, but let's say in 3, right, you're just like the scrub, like, oh, hey, we need an extra person, come join our club with us. But in 4, you are like the leader. And I mean, sure, females can be a leader and kick everybody's ass, I'm sure. But I don't know. It's a Japanese game, and they're a very male-dominated society. So I don't know if having a female, play the lead in Persona 4 would have worked. I don't know. That's, like I said, it's a Japanese thing maybe.
I'd argue that the situation does. I mean, it happens in Persona 3 Portable. You're the woman. You get the basic premise is that you get moved into this dormitory by kind of like accident, and you join the group regardless of gender, and then they recognize your leadership through merit. It has nothing to do with your gender either way. In Persona 4, you have to go visit your uncle, and you get caught up in this thing, and they recognize you as the leader through merit. So I really feel like there wouldn't be a big issue with making a female character in Persona 4. All they'd have to do is change Nanako's dialogue to Big Sis, and they'd have Risei hit on you less, maybe.
Yeah, she is very aggressive throughout the game. Even if you don't pursue her, it's just like how she talks. So I'm wondering if like Yosuke would be just like a perv towards you the whole game, which would be kind of funny.
Well, I mean, like I said, with Persona 3, it does change how the characters interact with you in some ways, but it's cool. I mean, I don't want to belabor the point too much, but I feel like that is a big deal to me, and I think it'll come back when we talk about kind of the future of these series.
I was right there with you, yeah.
I do want to hit one more point, though, on this argument before we kind of go a little off of our bullet points. The music of Persona 3 and Persona 4. I feel Persona 3 is a much, much better soundtrack for a number of reasons, some of them personal. I think the darker tone to it fits more with the themes, the overall tone of Persona 3, which is a story essentially about death, about accepting death, that we're all going to die, but, that's not necessarily a bad thing, and it's a very kind of like dark urban hip-hop. And then you got Persona 4, which is about a serial killer, and it's bubbly J-pop. I like it, but it's weird to me. Do you have it? What can you say in defense of the Persona 4 soundtrack?
I like it. I think, again, like you were saying, the game as a whole is much more upbeat and cheery, and the soundtrack reflects that. So I guess it depends. I don't know how you could argue against that, because it's like Persona 3 is darker, therefore the soundtrack's darker. Persona 4 is more upbeat and cheery, and the soundtrack is cheery. Even though it's in the vein of a murder mystery, the stuff you do around it is more upbeat, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I mean, upbeat is one thing, but I'm talking about like the main battle theme. It doesn't seem to have any place in combat. I like Reach Out to the Truth, but it doesn't sound. It's not a battle theme.
I don't know. I guess it just maybe not, but it still works. It's still fun, and because I don't know. I guess if we're trying to theme stuff, like it's like, oh my gosh, so it's murder, so it has to be dark. Like I guess the whole point of Persona 4 was to try to make something a little bit more friendly and like easygoing fun, sort of, and so that just is reflected in the the combat stuff. I mean, the boss battles, and once you get into like the darker end of the game stuff, they get pretty serious and more appropriate as far as theme goes.
Well, okay, let's put aside appropriateness. Let's say Persona 4 soundtrack is perfect for it. I'll grant that, okay? What do you think about the blunt force trauma of the lyrics for those songs? Like, I have never heard the word truth so many times in my entire life. Like, I feel like Shoji Meguro had some kind of verbal tick when he wrote those because it's really, really excessive.
It is. I'm trying to, like, think of the words because half the time there's, like, a sentence here and a sentence there. But I guess, again, it's reflective of the game because the whole point is, like, oh, we're trying to find the true killer and the true...
No, it's perfectly thematically relevant. I'm just saying a little subtlety might have been appreciated.
I guess, yeah.
I would make the argument that the Persona 1 remake has a superior soundtrack. Have you heard the one from the PSP?
I haven't even. Maybe a track or two, but I can't really recall it off the top of my head.
It's really good. I would even prefer that one. That one has some J-pop influences, but I feel like they're more judiciously used. Like there's the theme when you're in the mall, and it's like J-pop over the speakers. But when you're in the battle, it's like a techno electronica kind of vibe. So yeah, I feel like that balances it better. That's just some of my bigger complaints with these. Obviously, I love Persona 4. I'm playing it right now. I spent all day up to this recording fishing for the River Guardian because I have to, I guess. I don't want to go down the road of like useless mini games because the bug catching thing is just I can't even deal with it right now.
No, I don't even bother with that stuff. I just do the social link stuff or work a side job. Like, yeah, all that. Anything that doesn't involve, like, making money or hanging out with a friend, I, like, don't even bother with.
I mean, I wouldn't, except for you need the River Guardian to do the Hermit social link, and that fox is adorable.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I pretty much ignored the fox in both of my playthroughs of that game, so...
Poor fox. I like him. He's cute.
He gives you, if you talk to him right before you jump into the TV, he constantly gives you, like, new costumes and stuff.
That's cool. I pat his head every time I see him, and he gives me, like, a item. I think it's like a peach seed. That's thoughtful of him.
Yeah, that. So if the more you do that, the better stuff he gives you.
Oh, one more thing. It just popped up in my head. The Persona designs in 3 are better. What do they do to Susanoo?
Susanoo? Oh, you're talking about the actual Personas themselves?
Yes. Yosuke's second Persona. It's like a flaming hula hoop man. It's Susanoo from Japanese mythology. He's in Okami.
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah.
That's a character, and in Persona 3 he's like a big badass guy with a really cool like sword. And he's just like a flaming hula hoop guy. What is even?
I can't make heads or tails of what any of the Personas are supposed to be, especially what's the infamous one? You know what I'm talking about?
Mara?
Yeah.
Mara, that's actually a pun.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's a pun. I believe the Japanese word Mara or Mara sounds like penis or something. That's my understanding, obviously. I speak English and Spanish, so that's not my realm, but that's my understanding of it.
I would believe you, considering what it looks like.
No, it is just a straight up dick.
Yep, with a mouse on wheels.
That's the thing, though. If we're gonna get a little off topic here, Megami Tensei has a long, proud history of wangs.
Oh boy.
It does. So, dude, so many wangs. But I think that may be why we didn't see quite a few of them localized for a while, because they were not only blasphemous, but that's why we didn't get Innocent Sin for such a long time, was because of the homosexual relationship between two of the characters, and obviously the Third Reich imagery. So all of that.
So I guess to get back on topic slightly, if I'm gonna argue or agree with Persona 3, I guess I can't say it's a bad game. I'm not saying I can't really think of anything bad about it, except that in the version I played, you can't control your characters, which pissed the crap out of me.
Yeah, that's unacceptable. That's and obviously
crazy.
Persona 3 Portable changed that. You can't take manual control over all your party members. I do want to reiterate that we are comparing Golden with Portable,
right?
Because otherwise this just gets out of control with all of the different versions, and there's no way to even get any of this straight. So
Sure. But I guess I'm just saying from experience, that's the version that I played, and it was really annoying, especially the final boss, because there's certain like things you can do to exploit the boss, and you can't do that when you control him. Anyway, besides that, the game is, I guess I'm more of like an upbeat, cheery kind of guy. I mean, that's why I was so looking forward to Ni no Kuni, because it's so very lighthearted and like for 7-year-olds. And when you play Persona 3 is so dark. Like my friend, I got him into Persona, and he just beat Persona 4. He bought the animation, and he just watched it literally 5 times in a row. And he's like, "Oh, let me play Persona 3." And he played it for like an hour, and he's like, "Can I borrow Ni no Kuni? I really don't want to play a game where I shoot myself in the head." So
there's no accounting for taste, and personal preference is a totally legitimate and valid reason for things. You can just say, "I liked this better." Unless you're a critic, you don't actually need to back that up. So that I can completely understand.
I guess that's just my thing. And I also feel like that the tower, the way that you do the dungeon crawling compared to Persona 4, to me was just more interesting, because Persona 3 is just like, well, here's this tower thing that we have to crawl, and hopefully something's at the top. And then in Persona 4, it's like we're constantly going into our own psyche and figuring out what's wrong with ourselves and trying to help ourselves. So to me, it's weird. It just seems like it's so gamey in Persona 3. It's like, yeah, there's a tower with things in it. Let's climb it. You know what I mean?
Fuck. I was hoping you wouldn't bring that up, because that is a really good argument. I was just not going to mention it. But yes, the dungeon design in Persona 4 is more varied, clearly. So there's no argument there. I was just not going to bring it up, but you do win that one.
That's about all I can say that I didn't like about Persona 3. Everything else I do like, and I think we've both seen the Persona 4 animation. And my favorite episode, I think you might agree, is the one where they go to Gecko Kami High, and then the whole soundtrack for that episode is Persona 3 music, and they have a couple of the characters. One thing, I don't know if this is relevant at all, but one thing that's kind of interesting is that in Persona 3 Portable, Vincent from Catherine is in the game, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, he's in the bar, and when you talk to him, he's like, "Oh man, I got my girlfriend pregnant, I'm fucked."
How far before Catherine did that come out? Because obviously that was like an Easter egg kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I don't know. It couldn't have been more than a year.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool nod, because even in the animation, when Yu's when his phone rings, it's the theme song from Catherine when you die. I'm like, no way, they did the Catherine thing. That's so funny. And I guess something that we haven't discussed yet is all these games are like, quote unquote, supposedly all in one big world, right? Like Catherine is the Persona 4 world, and obviously Persona 3 and Persona 4 are in the same world, because they intersect not only in the actual games but in Persona 4 Arena.
Yeah, I mean, full spoilers here. At this point, you might want to turn it off if you just came for the debate. All the Persona games are in the same universe, explicitly, especially with Persona 4 Arena. If you want to just move into the next topic here, what what do you want out of Persona 5? Because Persona 4 Arena clearly says there's an overarching plot and that these characters still have stuff to do. Do you want Persona 5 to be the Persona 3 and 4 gangs teaming up and fighting Nyarlathotep, or do you want new characters, new setting, new problem?
See, here, I could take either. I would prefer new characters, and here's why. Because if you did a Persona 4, 2, or whatever, from the very beginning of the game, they would know there's a threat. So as soon as you start the game, you're like, yep, there's a thing we got to do, and we got to go get it. But what I like about the games is you're learning about the world as the characters are. It's like a perfect game design. It's like, oh, there's a thing going on? Well, I better go discover it. So as you're going through the game, you're learning about the threat. Whereas if you were to start with new characters, you would already know it's there, and there's like no tension at all, really. So for me, I would like new characters, even though I really do like the ones in Persona 4 and Persona 3.
Yeah, I basically feel the same way. What I want out of Persona 5 is that feeling of meeting new people and, making all these friendships, like the same thing we've been talking about all over again. And as much as I do like the cast we've met so far, I feel like maybe we should wait until the next arena. And I don't know if they'll call it Persona 5 Arena or Persona 4 Arena 2 or however they're going to do that. That maybe is where we'll see some closure on the overarching storyline. But I feel like Persona 5 should be its own thing, kind of in the series tradition. And I have some thoughts about what I want it to be. Obviously, the fandom has its own crazy-ass ideas about what Persona 5 should be. So we might even leave a link under the BT version of this so you can see some of the things they've made, because they're pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, there is. There's like they made like this whole soundtrack, and there's this like giant thread on Atlus's forums about like, here's what the main characters are going to be like, and people have drawn it like in the vein of the art style in Persona, and it looks really cool. I'm like, yeah, make that. That looks awesome. But like, I mean, what you were talking about, you know what you want out of it. Like, what are some themes or gameplay changes or whatever that you would want from Persona 5?
Well, definitely, first of all, male and female main character options.
Yep, that right from the start.
Right from the start. I mean, that is very important to me for reasons I've already explained. But I just think it would make the game better overall. Another thing, do you think, and we've had this conversation before, do you think high school is played out? I obviously school is important. Maybe college. Maybe I don't know how else they could do that. But I feel like we've kind of touched on all the high school we can.
I could go two ways. Here's why I think they're going to continue high school, although I would like it to be a little different. I think it's going to be high school still. Every Persona game has been high school. Not that that means you can't change it, but also I spoke to some friends who lived in Japan and kind of explained it to me. In Japan, high school is like their version of college in America. Like that's their time to go wild and go crazy, kind of. So it's sort of like, oh, let's put like the best time of our life in a video game. Because if they did college, it would be a game about studying, basically. So, although I think it would be kind of cool, because I mean, Catherine, it's similarly structured, kind of, and you're an adult and you're like hanging out at a bar, and I love that. The atmosphere of that game was amazing. So I would be all for that, and it would be cool because if it was college, there would be a bigger campus, and there would just be more things to explore and more places to go. I would actually kind of be down for college just because I feel like the potential there for things you could do is bigger as far as like the social activities and stuff. But I think it will be still high school just because that's how Japan does it. But who knows?
Yeah, I mean, their culture isn't something that you can't really account for. If they're just going to do it, they're going to do it. So that's not really a negative even so much. It's just something I would think would be interesting to see. Mm-hmm. As far as tone, here's the thing. I've bitched about Persona 4 being, the main color of that game, the motif is yellow, and that's just so weird to me as a Mega 10 fan to see everything be so bright. Either they dial it back a bit, or they just go all out, like
make it bright pink and orange and
yeah, you commit, like don't half-ass it. Like if you want it to be Katamari Damacy, fucking do it. Like that's the kind of like color. If you want everyone to be Teddy, I think that would be acceptable.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know how much further, because I do like when it gets dark that it's grounded in the dark, but it can still be cheery. But I really liked what the fan things did, because basically the main colors of the fan made thing was black and white. Like all the fan art is black and white, and it looks really cool. And I mean, Catherine, I guess when you think of Catherine, what do you think of? Pink, right?
Yeah.
And that game's still kind of dark, but you still get different vibes out of it. I don't know. I guess I would want to see both ways to see if that's what I want out of it. But I guess I would still like it to be a little bit cheery. I don't want it to get too dark.
Another thing, and this is obviously born out of my recent obsession with Fire Emblem, I want to see more developed relationships. I mean, the ones we have are good. We learn about our friends, and they go through an arc, but you never get the sense that these people all exist in the same world. Like you can date like all of the girls, and none of them have any problem with that. I want to see a little bit more realism in the way these things are portrayed, and like this obviously would take a lot of work to make this work right and not get in the way of the mechanics. But I want to feel like the things that you do to increase the social links are actually affecting the game. You know what I'm saying?
Well, in what way? I mean, they kind of are. Like, are you saying like in a more impactful way, I guess? In
a more meaningful way, because they don't, like, okay, if you've gone through one of the social links, right, and you have this person get over all their fears and they respect you, and then you go back to the regular game and none of that is acknowledged.
Oh, as far as like, oh man, I remember I was afraid of whatever this thing. I mean, they kind of do. I feel like they explore that more in the show.
Yeah, they do.
Because you have to drag it out somehow. which would be kind of cool if they had more one-off events, because that was kind of my problem, I guess, to go off topic a little bit with the Rune Factory games, is the those kind of, you know, relationships that you make with your friends and the girls is super shallow, whereas Persona is a little bit less shallow, but I would agree it'd be cool to really extrapolate and make a lot of more unique events and more dynamic things. Would be kind of cool. I mean, it's been 5 years, 6 years since Persona 4 came out, so I'm sure that they figured out a way to make it more dynamic. Hopefully, would be cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a thing playing Fire Emblem is like when two units get married, and then they'll step on one of the little sparkly spaces, and they'll just say something nice. They'll just be like, "Oh, you're looking really nice today," and then, you know, it's just you get a sense that these people actually are in this relationship. Where in Persona 4, you could be banging half the squad and no one bats an eyelid, like no one notices.
Oh, so you're saying like more on a day-to-day thing, like let's say.
Yeah, I mean, scripted events are fine, and I want more of that too. But yeah, just generally people acknowledge that there are these things going on around them.
That would be cool. More, I guess, more Mass Effect-y in a way, because like I think in that game, when you do stuff like that, it's obviously acknowledged. So when you do events like, I don't know, like let's say for example you're dating Chie and you have a get-together at Juness, then somebody's like, "So you guys are looking pretty cute today," or something, or whatever. You're saying stuff like that, kind of.
Yeah, yeah, you're pretty much hitting the nail on the head there. Mass Effect is a good example of where, you know, it's not intensely complicated, but you feel like everyone acknowledges that you are doing things. Like there's a certain sense that these events are connected and not all happening in their own little worlds.
Yeah,
and
I'd be all for that. That'd be awesome.
Because I mean, you kind of comes off like a cold motherfucker, like
yeah.
And some of the romance things where they'll be like, "I love you," and he's like, "That's nice."
It's interesting the way they explain that in the show, because he's this very like dry.
He's stoic.
Yeah. The club scene perfectly encapsulates everything. He's like, "I am the king, and what I say goes," and like everybody just loves him. And I think my favorite part is when they're at the camp and Chie and Yukiko kick him off the cliff, and he just has this like blank stare on his face as he's like falling like 50 feet to his doom. It's just ridiculous.
It works definitely for comedy's sake in the anime, but it doesn't quite come across in the game, unfortunately.
No, definitely not.
I think we said this before, but yeah, the anime is a lot better than it probably should be, condensing a 70-hour game into 20 episodes.
It is. I agree. Like I remember when I watched the first few episodes, I'm like, this is just scene for scene the game. But then, like as you get more into it, it definitely expands on characters more, and they kind of have liberties with the characters. I think my favorite character in the anime is Kanji. He's hilarious in the show, and he's very boisterous, and Troy Baker does a really good job with it.
Kanji's just awesome in general. He's probably my favorite part of Persona 4, and just in general, I like him.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. So if we're talking about things we want in Persona 5, I think at least in the two that I've played, they've had characters that tackle interesting themes that you don't see in a lot of games. Like Aegis is a robot, so you're dealing with what does it mean to be human or whatever. There's animals. I don't know if that really translates to themes, but then there's like we talked about earlier, like gay, bisexual, transgender characters. So I'm hoping they have a character like that where there's something really different about them, and their you know plot tree or whatever, some interesting dialogue comes out of it. I mean, are you looking for something like that as well?
I am absolutely looking for just a no excuses, no apologies, gay character. Just not even a big deal. Just like Scott Pilgrim versus the World, his roommate.
Oh, yeah. Was it Other Scott? No. I forget what his name is.
Yeah, I can't remember his name, but yeah, his roommate he's just gay. It's not a big deal, and I think that's totally a character I want to see in video games. We don't get it at all, and I think Persona might be the series that can do it without people losing their shit, because it's something they've touched before, and I feel like its fans are smarter than a lot of other fandoms. Yeah, animals. I think Teddy was obviously my thoughts on Teddy are what they are, but that's kind of a thing they had going with Koromaru, and I feel like they could do another one of those. I mean, all the Persona games touch on things like that. I mean, you haven't played the first 3, which is weird to say because there's only 4 numbered games, but there are 5 Persona games. But yeah, they touch on all kinds of interesting things, and I do hope they go further with 5.
Yeah, it would be cool. It'd be even interesting if the main character was like that, even though he's typically silent. It'd be interesting to see make that a little bit different.
So you mean make the main character like have a more developed personality?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, for me, I don't really like when RPGs do the silent protagonist. I get what they're doing. It's like, oh, you are the guy and you shape how he answers things, so you make the character of it what you will. But I kind of don't. There's something weird when he doesn't speak words. I don't know.
It depends, because if you're stuck with an unlikable protagonist, it can absolutely sink the entire experience. So if you're gonna do strong personality, you need to make sure that you've nailed it, or it's not worth it.
That's true. I guess you're right. Like, I played Tales of the Abyss, and I don't want to hate Luke, but I just can't help it.
I mean, that's the way I feel about Final Fantasy 8 and 10, is that they are technically, not terrible games, but I cannot spend time with Squall or Tidus without wanting to break my game controller.
I think you are not alone in that.
So that's my fear, is if they give the Persona 5 protagonist a personality, I might not like it, and then I won't want him to get laid, so I won't try.
They probably won't, because I'm assuming in the original 3, he's silent as well.
Yeah, none of the I'm trying to think that the Persona 2, Maya and Tatsuya both have names and personalities, but one, I think the fandom just calls him the boy with the earring, is the main character from 1. He has no discernible personality. Maya does, because she's an NPC in one game and then the main character in the next. So you've already met her. That's a weird outlier. So I will throw that caveat in. But generally, you have kind of a non-entity as the main character. Maya's awesome. I think if they do a Persona 5 arena, she should be in it.
Yeah, that would be cool. Well, let's throw this out there. When do you think we're going to see Persona 5? When do you think it's going to be revealed, and when do you think we're going to get it? Because I think it's a thing, right? They've mentioned several times that they're working on it, or whatever.
They have confirmed that it is in some kind of production. I don't think we're going to get it for another 2 or 3 years.
Really? That far down the line, huh?
I feel like, A, they haven't really announced much, and B, they know how important it is, and they wouldn't rush it. Mm-hmm. So, and also, I mean, I think it's going to be, we don't even know what system it's on. I was going to say, I think it's going to be a PS3 game, because Persona 3 and 4 obviously came out for the PS2 after the PS3 was already out. So I see that trend continuing for budget reasons and just because it's already in production. Do you see it getting any other releases on any other systems?
I guess it depends on... It might depend on a couple of things. I think it's further into production than we think it is, and it would be too much of a hassle to port to PS4 and 720 or whatever. But I think it'll definitely be on this generation, because from what I understand, the whole point of Catherine was to test for Persona 5 and see how the engine would work and what it would look like and stuff. So I can't see them skipping an entire console generation without a Persona game. I mean, it's totally feasible, but you never know.
Yeah. I mean, also you have to take into account Atlus has a lot of different things going on right now. Like, they just remade Soul Hackers. They have Shin Megami Tensei 4. They have an upgraded version of Devil Survivor 2. That's just the Mega 10 stuff. They have all kinds of other things going on right now. So,
and then don't forget SMT Cross Fire Emblem, which I'm sure is not in any kind of discernible production at all.
Do they say who is developing that? I would imagine it would be Intelligent Systems.
I don't think they mentioned. It might be like what they did with Project Cross Zone. They all 3 technically work on it, but one company does most of the work. I bet you it'd probably be Intelligent Systems, since they just put out Fire Emblem, and Alice is probably busy with Persona 5 or whatever.
Yeah, that's how I imagine it. Maybe that info is out there, but that was my understanding of the situation. So, also, I do want to point out that Shin Megami Tensei versus Fire Emblem, or Cross Fire Emblem, is not going to have any Persona characters in it, to my knowledge. It's going to be all Demi Fiend and the Marine from Strange Journey and shit like that, which is going to be mind-blowing.
That's going to be like your game of your life, huh?
It is. I almost want it to come out even sooner for the schadenfreude of people picking it up and be like, oh, I bet this will be like, there'll be Teddy, and it'll have all kinds of like Nanako, it'll be all cute and stuff, and then it just skull fucks them to death.
You would think that people would be... I don't think a lot of people know that Persona is a SMT game. People that just call it Persona, they don't call it Shin Megami Tensei Persona. At least I never do.
Well, I mean, the thing is that Atlus dropped that branding in Japan. Like, it's just Persona, but it still says Shin Megami Tensei on the box in America. So, I don't know. But my understanding is that there are some people who are not quite grasping the way that all these series interlock. So I still find it would be funny if someone picked up that game not knowing what they were getting into.
I'm sure that is a thing that's going to happen, for sure. But you never know. Who knows? But yeah, I think, here's what I think. I think we're going to get some kind of, for Persona 5, some kind of teaser trailer at Tokyo Game Show. Mm-hmm. And then it comes out in Japan next fall, and then we get it like early 2015. That's me being optimistic.
So, I mean, I said 2-3, you said 2.
Yeah. Years.
So, yeah, it's a shame that it's going to be so long, but I'd rather have it be as long as it needs to be good.
Oh, yeah, that is... There are a few games that I will be like, just take your time because it'll be awesome. Like, Persona 4 is my favorite game of all time, so it takes you another, 2-3 years to make probably another one of my top 5 favorite games of all time, then sure, because rushing it will not help. Although, I'm going to throw this out there, I'm worried that they might rush it because apparently their parent company, Index, is having financial troubles, and they know Persona is a cash cow. So maybe they're like, hey, get this out faster so we can make a lot of money. But who knows?
Well, I think it's maybe the question to end on. If Persona 5 comes out and is good, we're assuming it's going to be good, whether or not it's rushed, do you think we then see a updated re-release on the Vita or the Vita 2 or whatever? Because that's something that's been happening with all of them, is they get updated re-releases.
I don't know what the point would be. I would almost think that they would do a simultaneous Vita PS3 release, because it's almost like, well, what's the point of porting it? Because I get Golden because you have the Vita and there's more things you can do with it. I get the PSP version because you can get it to more people or whatever, especially in Japan where PSP was a big thing. I don't know if there would be a point, or if they could maybe a re-release on PS4. I don't know if it'd be a handheld, but who knows? That's my guess.
Because we were saying, okay, they rush it out, they have to cut some features, and then a year later they add those things back in and sell it again. Well, I mean, why not? I mean, people will buy it. I will. I'll buy it twice because I'm an idiot.
That's what I did. I bought Persona 4 again. Well, I think for us guys, like, we're super hardcore fans. There's enough nuances in these re-releases that we can tell. And we're like, I noticed that. Oh, yeah, that was totally worth spending another $40 for. But... I mean, more power to them if they can get away with it.
I mean, I like Golden and everything, but $40 for some scooters. I'm just saying, maybe they need to bring their A game next time.
Yeah, to me, I thought it was more streamlined. Maybe it was a little easier even, especially with the card shuffle and the way you restart. You don't have to go back to a save point. Like if you die, you can just start on the floor again. They had a new character. They had new events. They had, I don't know. It's definitely not like Persona 3, because I almost think Persona 3, it's like they scaled back and had to make everything menus, but then they added a new character. So it's sort of like, I don't know.
I will say, here's the thing. People talk about the visual novel style of 3 portable as if it's a drawback. I actually kind of prefer that. I mean, I don't mind visual novel mechanics, but also just walking around in Persona 4 is not like a super fun experience. The 3D models are last gen. There's not any like interactivity. I mean, why not just pick from a menu that you want to go to the store? Why do I have to walk there? That's just 15 seconds wasted.
It's true, but I would almost say this is in Persona 3's favor. I feel like the areas you can explore are bigger in Persona 3, wouldn't you say? Because like the mall, there's like 2 or 3 mall areas. Like Persona 4, it's like the main street, and that's kind of it. Like in Persona 3, there's like the mall area with the movie theater, and then when you go at night, there's like the club. I mean, I feel like the areas are just bigger in Persona 3, which is weird considering it came before 4. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. It would have been cool to have the option, but whatever.
I don't think they'll ever do a VN-style menu again because people are dumb.
No, especially with
the new engine and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, oh man, I'm so excited. Like, can you imagine a Persona game that looks like Catherine? That's going to be amazing, because Catherine, I would pick style over photorealism like any day of the week, and like Catherine is one of like the most visually captivating games out there, like this gen, besides maybe Ni no Kuni. Like that game looks so cool. Like the atmosphere in that game is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would prefer style over photorealism. My problem with focusing on graphics at all with the Persona sub-series is like, have you played an SMT game recently? We're still in first person in our battles with 2D art. You guys are spoiled with your polygons over there.
It's true, and I want to say it's almost spritey in a way, right? Like some of the characters when they do show them, if they show up at all, I don't know.
I can't remember off the top of my head if what kind of art they're doing there, but they've redrawn a lot of the stuff for the new game, so I'm really looking forward to 4. But I'm just saying, when we're going to start, if we're going to get into graphics, this is a completely different conversation we're going to need to have because our expectations are way too high.
Well, wouldn't you agree though that Persona 5 is going to look exactly like Catherine?
I mean, exactly. It depends. I mean, all of it's art direction, really. If it's the same engine, here's the thing about engines is that we talk about them like they're super important, but it's just a tool set. I mean,
right.
Gears of War and Mortal Kombat are both Unreal games, so they don't look anything alike.
No,
play anything like. So, I mean, Catherine is sharing technology with Persona 5. I don't know if it's indicative of anything we're going to actually see. If there are block puzzles, I will flip a shit.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's going to be all block puzzles. I'm talking about
I know.
the character models.
I was being flippant.
You're being silly. But I don't know. I think that what Catherine looks like could be maybe not. I don't know. They kind of had this interesting like dark shader stuff. I don't know how to describe it.
I know what you're saying.
But they'll probably make it more cheery and not as dark. I don't know. But I like, if that's what Persona 5 looks like, I'll be happy. That's basically all I'm saying.
Yeah, Catherine is hard as fuck, but I enjoy it and I respect it.
Yeah, it is hard. I started on easy, and then I replayed it again, and I played it on normal. I can't even fathom playing that game on hard mode. It's just like, I don't feel like wanting thumbs anymore.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be funny if Persona 5 came out and it was a block puzzle game, or if it was like a first-person shooter or something?
Persona 5 : Catherine.
I think that would be the best if they just went and completely destroyed our expectations of an entirely different genre.
Oh, God. I wouldn't put it past them to put the Stray Sheep in Persona 5. What do you think about that? Do we know where that takes place, like, geographically? It's Japan, right?
I
assume so. Because I don't really know.
Because I think that might be a thing, that they could just set it in the Catherine city. Because, I mean, we've done rural, we've done urban. I feel like the Catherine world kind of has, an interesting vibe to it. It's like, it is a city, but it's not like where it's just like skyscrapers everywhere. Yeah, it would be cool to be like, Tokyo or something, like one of the big cities, and you can go around like Akihabara, because that's like the place people talk about when they think of Japan, right? It's like Akihabara, like all the anime places or whatever. It would be kind of cool. I mean, the reason why it makes me think it's Japan is if you go to Vincent's apartment, his apartment is a small-ass apartment. There aren't a lot of those in America or anywhere else. It's like the one room, basically. Yep, the one room and then the bathroom. So. Yeah, I'm sure it is Japan. I just never really thought about it before now. I mean, would you be open to a Persona game set in anywhere else? Like, what if it was just, like, in Germany? Like, apropos of nothing. It's just that's where it is. Like, would that bother you? I don't know. I feel like what makes Persona 4, the series, to me at least, special is that it takes a lot of influences from Japanese culture and throws it into the story. Like when they have, the yukata festivals and that kind of stuff. It definitely makes it stand out. I'm just saying I've seen it. I've done Golden Week and Appreciation for the Elderly Day a couple times now. So yeah, maybe there's a lot of different like Asian holidays they haven't thrown in. Like they have this thing in Korea, and I think they also have in Japan called White Day, and they also have Valentine's Day. So actually that might be in the game now that I think about it. But there's I think Valentine's Day is in Golden. Because in that, the girl gives stuff to the guy, and then on the next day it's the other way around. So it's like each person has their day, kind of. Yeah. I just had that thought randomly, like, what if they said it somewhere else? Like, I don't want to be America, because that's boring. But what if it was in, like, South Africa or something? Maybe. That would be crazy. I could see it being in Canada. There's a pretty big Asian population in Canada. That would just be interesting. Because I'm familiar with all of the Japanese holidays now, and now I want to know about Boxing Day. What's Boxing Day all about?
I have no idea. Do they fight each other? Is that what they do? Or is it literally boxes?
I think I don't want to sound like an idiot. I don't think it's either of those.
I don't know either.
My first thought is Boxer Rebellion, but I think that's a Chinese thing.
Johnny's going to listen to this and punch us in the face afterwards.
Okay, I just looked it up. Boxing Day is traditionally the following day of Christmas Day when servants and tradesmen receive gifts from their superiors or employees. Huh. It is observed in the UK, Hong Kong, Australia, Canada, and New Zealand.
Interesting.
Oh, and South Africa.
Well, there you go.
You can have it in South Africa and still have Boxing Day. Everyone wins.
There you go. So I think one thing we can agree on is Persona is amazing, and Persona 5 is probably going to be mind-blowing.
Yeah, I mean, easily 9s or 10s on the BT scale. I'm still shocked that Sean gave Golden a 9. I thought it was gonna be 11. I thought I was gonna have to talk him down from breaking our scale.
Well, his arguments were interesting. He's like, yeah, I have some real problems with the camera, and I don't remember at any point having problems with the camera.
Oh. I do. I'm playing Golden right now, and when you're trying to like backstab enemies in the dungeons, sometimes it'll just completely flip out on you, and you won't be able to see where you or the shadow is if you're manually controlling it. It'll like zoom into walls and stuff.
Oh, I guess I never really. Maybe I'm used to how that works, and I don't ever run into that. But
do you try to backstab every shadow? Because I do.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. Also, I think his other criticism was that the pacing was a little wonky, which is a thing that's just kind of about the series, although I do understand it takes like 3 hours to get to the first proper dungeon, which is like the campaign of a Western game sometimes.
Yeah. No, I will give him that. The game is very slow to start, and if you give it a chance, especially when the game's 60 hours, like it's so worth it, because you get the setup for everything, and then you're ready to go.
Yeah, but I mean, you can definitely tell how alienating that would be for someone who wasn't expecting it.
That's true, because I know some games, I almost feel like it's a thing in Western games is to start off with an intense action sequence and then have it be like a flashback or something. You know what I mean? Just so you can start the game at a fast pace.
It's the hook.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find because here's the thing: we kind of just take for granted that these are amazing games, but not everyone thinks so. I just looked up an Amazon review, okay? 2 out of 5 for Persona 5 or Persona 4 Golden. The music is atrocious and will give you a headache after only a few minutes. The characters' voices are horrible, especially Chie's shrill, obnoxious voice. Nothing makes sense in this game. I bought it because of the good reviews, but I wish I hadn't. I played for 10 hours and then promptly deleted it in disgust. Stay away from this game. It's more for the Japanese audience and emo kids.
Emo kids. I mean, this game, if you really like take a step back and talk about what this game is, it's like you're a kid in high school who investigates a murder and you go into televisions and talk to bears. Like, it's a weird game.
Yeah, it's just Hollywood wouldn't greenlight it.
No, definitely not.
It's a niche thing, definitely. So I think it's interesting to take a step back, get some perspective on how intimidating the whole thing can seem to a newcomer. Where you're like, yeah, you got to listen to people talk for 3 hours before we let you play. And most people, like the majority of the human population, would be like, no thanks, I'm going to go watch Mad Men.
Let me ask you this. Are you surprised at all at how popular it's getting? Because I felt like when Persona 4 Golden came out, I was very heavily following the gaming press, and like everybody that had never played it before really loved it and was like really excited about it and dumped a ton of hours into it. Like, are you at all surprised or not surprised or whatever about how it's kind of gaining in popularity, especially with the fighting game spin-off, the anime, and even in Japan, which is kind of ridiculous. They're doing a live stage play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that thing is like a musical.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. It's very much like the way Demon Souls and Dark Souls worked. It was like when Demon Souls came out, everyone heard about it, but not a lot of people played it. Like, the people who had played it really liked it, and it kind of got a reputation. And that's where I feel like Mega 10 in general is stuck in that zone for the longest time. And Persona 4 was like Dark Souls. It's like when people started actually getting their hands on it and everyone agreed it's actually super legitimate. And now people who got on board earlier, kind of resentful of all newbies, kind of feel like that they don't really appreciate it for what makes it special, and there's kind of, tension. But I feel like in general, it is finally getting the recognition it deserves, and I feel like, Atlus is kind of milking it a little bit, but who wouldn't? I mean, they have the biggest success on their hands that they've ever had, and I mean, yeah. I mean, have you seen some of the Persona 4 merchandise? There's like chess sets and like coffee mugs and like.
Yeah, it's out of control, especially in Japan.
So I don't blame them necessarily, but it does fuel a little bit of my resentment towards the whole thing because obviously I'm a big hipster about this, which is it's disgusting to even me. So, but yeah, hopefully after Persona 5 drops, we can all just kind of move past that. As I would imagine Final Fantasy went through a similar transition when 7 came out and blew everyone's mind. And then that was like the big thing. And then by the time like 10 rolled around, we were just on the train together and it wasn't a big deal anymore.
I agree. And I hope it sells really well too. Cause speaking of Dark Souls, they said recently that sold like almost 2.5 million copies worldwide. So I would be really happy if Persona 5 sold like, I don't know, 1.5 million. Like that seems like paltry compared to, AAA games these days, but I feel like it has that potential.
I mean, the Binding of Isaac sold 2 million, and that game's about killing your Christian mom. So, Jesus.
Well, that's also from the guy that made Super Meat Boy, so I'm sure people have like brand loyalty or whatever.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I think Persona 4 has earned some brand loyalty, but my point is that you never can predict what's going to be the success. And I actually used Dark and Demon Souls as the example because Atlus published Demon Souls.
That's true. Yeah.
But then it got too big, and Namco stole it for Dark Souls. I mean, I'm exaggerating, obviously, but they had the money, and they reaped the profit that Atlus had set up, basically.
I don't think anybody thought that was even going to be a game worth playing or whatever. And then you're right. I want to say that's Atlus's most successful game, period, even more than the Persona games.
I'd have to look at the stats, but I think that maybe Demon Souls has a higher budget than some of the Persona games, which might offset maybe the higher sales. I'm not entirely sure, but they're both successful, and I think it's a shame that they didn't get to publish Dark Souls. I feel like they earned that one.
Yeah, they treated it right, and even after they when Dark Souls 2 was announced, they were like, yeah, we're going to keep the Demon Souls servers up, so keep on playing. Like they were really good to their fans.
Yeah, Atlus is great, and sometimes I feel like I give them like a little bit more credit than maybe I should because I'm supposed to be some kind of like neutral third-party observer, but I can't hide it. They're one of my favorite. They are the new Square Enix as far as I'm concerned. They are the new benchmark in JRPGs.
Oh, absolutely. Here's the only worrying thing I have, and this is getting very ticky-tacky, especially us being like guys that write about games and make videos about games, is Aram Jabari, the guy who was the PR and sales guy at Atlus, is at Sony now. So I'm wondering...
He always puts pictures of kittens in his emails?
Yeah, that's right.
He's great.
Yeah, he's awesome. And I don't even... he was the face of Atlus. Like, everybody knew him. And now it's like, I don't really know anybody over there. I don't know if that is going to make a difference, but hopefully somebody picks up the stick or whatever and kind of runs with it and makes stuff happen.
Yeah. It's sometimes unfortunate and sometimes fortunate that things like PR are so important because sometimes great games get overlooked because of not enough marketing push, and sometimes shit gets overhyped and it makes a lot of money.
It's true. Look at Homefront. That game was everywhere, and it's garbage.
Oh, jeez.
So shall we wrap this up? Is there any closing statements that you wanted to say or anything we forgot?
Well, I think to conclude this, well, it started as a debate. It's a quasi-debate now. Do either of us want to budge from our positions, maybe concede some points? I assume we're going to end on the note that we are both still firm in our beliefs that our games are better.
I still, at the end of the day, it's a preference thing. I still like the happier and not as dark tones in Persona 4, although I would say it would have been cool if it had a female protagonist. That is one thing that Persona 3 has that I wish Persona 4 had. And other than that, I just still think it's a little bit better all around as far as like design and characters and stuff go. To me, I like the characters better, but Persona 3 is still excellent.
I will say that obviously dungeon variety is a big thing. The same gray corridors of the Tartarus are boring, and there's no argument there that Persona 4 is better in that particular area. Also, Golden added the ability to manually select which skills are inherited by fused demons. So that, I feel, is a big mechanical advantage. I hope that carries over into future games as well. But overall, yeah, I think it might come down to personal preference. I just prefer darker games, maybe. I mean, I have no problem with light, happy games. I just feel maybe that's a lot of it was out of place. Or, I could just be biased for my love of games where you murder the Judeo-Christian God for... I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just a taste. We can agree that it's a taste thing more than anything else.
Yeah. They're both very good games, and if you're listening to this, if you got this far and you haven't played them, first of all, bravo. Your endurance and fortitude are commendable. But just do it, man. Get those games. Get them. Do it.
I agree. They're awesome. If you don't want to buy a Vita, understandably so, I'm sure Persona 4 is cheap on eBay that you can get and play on your PS2 or your PS3 if you have one of those old ones. So listen to Austin.
Yeah, I mean, how much is a PS2 these days? I imagine you can get both and a PS2 for relatively cheap, and you can pick up Nocturne.
Probably the game and the system, maybe around $100, $115. I don't know. I don't know what those go for.
If you're looking to get into the series, a PS2 would probably be your best bet because then you get Nocturne 3, 4, and I believe the Devil Summoner games and Digital Devil Saga. I think are all PS2. So that's like 6 games.
Yep, so many SMT games I'll probably never play. But
you're not man enough, Taylor.
You know what? I don't play games for the challenge. I play to have fun, and that's probably why I played it on casual, or played Fire Emblem on casual, and will never play Nocturne or Strange Journey because I hear they're brutal. Dude,
Strange Journey. I mean, I think Strange Journey overall is maybe a little easier than Nocturne, or at least has a gentler curve because Nocturne it just spikes at a certain point. But the final boss of Strange Journey is just not fair. It's not for all of the routes, but the Memelef is the name of the final boss, has attacks that can just unblockable instant kill attacks. You just lose.
And that's no fun.
It's just... Strange Journey is just brutal.
Anyway, anybody, like Austin said, if anybody's still listening to this, let us know what you think. If you think Persona 4 is better, or what you prefer, or if you've played both or neither, or all your good Persona thoughts.
This is ostensibly a Thumb Wars episode, so maybe we'll tally it, and then we'll have that be the comments can decide.
There you go, yeah. What does the people think? What side of the thumb are you on? If that's a thing that anybody says.
No one says that. Hopefully Sean will be back next week if his herpes clears up, and then he can take the show back.
And goodbye, everybody.